I'm pretty hesitant to speak on this topic, but it keeps coming up over and over and over again for me as I talk about different aspects of my life and I get comments from you and hear your stories and see your questions and see the things that are on your mind. It just keeps coming up again and again. And so even though I'm hesitant because I'm a little embarrassed, a little ashamed maybe, and it's something that I'm still working through, like I'm I'm still trying to figure it out. And but then I just thought this community has been so supportive and so empowering. And so, I mean, it's just been great to connect with you. And I thought, well, maybe I should talk about this. Maybe you have some insight for me. Maybe you can help me out. Maybe we can figure it out together. But I'm curious from you. Has Has anyone else noticed that no matter how much more money you make, whatever that amount is, as you climb up and try to make more and earn more, that somehow you always end up with just enough? Because that's been my story for almost 60 years. Yeah. My name is Amy Palmer. I am your Gen X big sister, and we talk about all things pretirement here. And today's topic is definitely related to pretirement. Pretirement is the last 10 to 15 years ish before you retire. Gen X, many of us are not quite ready to retire financially or even emotionally, but we cannot keep living our lives the way we have been in previous decades. And it's really bubbled up and time to make a change. And that's what pretirement is all about, is creating a life where you can find joy now. So let's talk about this concept of money and having enough. And I'm wondering if there's anything specific about the Gen X woman experience that also adds to this phenomenon. So let me share a little bit about my relationship with money because I've been thinking about it a lot. And I definitely think that it begins with my background and my upbringing. My parents met when they were very young. You know, my mom was in high school, my dad was freshly out of high school. They got married very young in their early 20s. They had me very young. My father began college after I was born, or he was in college when I was born. So they were very young when they launched their lives together. They started in very modest, humble beginnings, and they had a dream of what they wanted for their family. And they wanted a full family. They ended up with 4 children. My dad, most of his, at least the early days when I was really little, was working multiple jobs. My mom was working jobs whenever she could. She actually got fired from her job as an administrative assistant when she became visibly pregnant with me. They fired her. But once I was born, she was able to she would work evening shifts. So she'd be home with me all day. My dad would come home and then she would go out and work tonight. That sounds like a really tough beginning to a marriage and to a family. But they were working really hard for what they had. They were constantly sacrificing for us children. They always managed to make it work. I never felt unsafe. I never felt neglected. I always felt like we had what we needed. We didn't have room for extras or luxuries. We always had just enough. Our basics were taken care of, but any luxuries on top of that were typically not an option. And I don't I don't know that I fully appreciated that state of living as a child. In fact, as I went into adolescence, teenage years, I became very resentful of it, of what we couldn't have, and that we didn't have more in our lives. And that it felt like there was always a struggle and they were always working really hard. And I knew I wanted something different for myself, but I dreamed of like a bigger life as a kid. No one ever communicated it specifically out loud that we just have enough like that. It was more like when we would ask for things or things that we wanted, and it was, it was a no, and it was just kind of understood. Somewhere along the lines, I learned that life meant having just enough. And I mean, obviously, even having just enough can be considered a privilege. Like enough to pay the bills, enough to get by, enough to survive, but not enough to exhale. My parents did not openly talk about finances with each other in front of us. I had no idea how much my father made. I had no idea what our house was worth, or whether we were renting it or owning it or whatever. That wasn't discussed. I I Nobody, no adult discussed money with me or finances with me on a specific basis, or even on a general basis. So all I could learn from was what I was experiencing. And I just knew that I did sense that there was tension about it, and that there was a struggle. And as a kid, all I knew was that I just didn't want that. I wanted freedom. I wanted to travel. I wanted to see the world. I wanted to have adventures. I wanted choice. I I didn't want to be constrained to, one small town, one small thing. I mean, that's just generally what I was yearning for. Never really consciously thought about the financial aspect of it. But somehow I actually became pretty good at making money. I was good at getting promoted wherever I was. I was good at like climbing the ladder, increasing my salary, taking on new responsibility, moving into leadership roles. I took a couple of risks into entrepreneurship, but as I look back, even no matter where I was in my salary, whether it was like in the beginning when I was just starting out and scraping to get by, or later in my career when I had a really healthy salary, no matter what, I somehow managed to replicate the exact financial situation that I'd always been in, that I always managed to sort of level down to just enough, just the surviving. Whenever I managed to get ahead, whenever there would be some cushion and it looked like I was heading in the direction of having some abundance, I would make a big life change. I would get comfortable in that pseudo abundance, and I would make a big life change and take a big risk. I would quit the job I was in. I would move to a brand new city, brand new state. I would travel. I would start a business. I would take a risk. I kept sacrificing the security for freedom, and then just level set to that just enough area. Like I was not broke, but I was not wealthy. I was always just enough. And this is part of the reason of like why I can't like retire early. This is why pretirement is such a real thing for me, is this relationship that I've always had with money. And I don't think it's about budgeting. I don't think I don't even think it's about income and the money that you make. I think it's about identity. Did I internalize scarcity so deeply that abundance actually feels unfamiliar? That that keeps coming up for me. Do I unconsciously recreate what feels normal? Am I blocking? Am I blocking it from coming to me? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. And to be clear, it's never been that I've purchased a lot of material possessions. Even when I owned a home, I never had the big house. I never had, the top of the line car, although I did end up with like a luxury car, but not top of the line. I've never had a huge wardrobe or expensive stuff. Like, it was not things that I would spend money on. It was experiences. It was travel. It was spa. It was entertainment. It was socializing. That's where my money has gone. And that's what would level set when I would get ahead. Or like, I would get ahead and I would take a risk and I would invest some of that cushion into a new thing, and not necessarily let that new thing play out long enough to then once again generate a cushion. And then I would get to the point where I'm like scraping by. I have just enough. And then I would hustle and do my thing. And then I would have some cushion. But I've almost felt like I've been energetically blocking off abundance of money. I also want to be very clear. I don't regret choosing experiences. I don't regret traveling. I don't regret creating and designing a life around freedom instead of possessions. I don't regret any of that. So this isn't about me wishing for that. It's about wondering if I've unknowingly put a ceiling on what is possible. What has changed for me in recent years is I don't stress about it the way I used to. So even as I was doing all this, and I was, I would almost self-sabotage myself to get to that just enough baseline. When that was happening, yes, it was comfortable to be there, but I always had this push-pull tension about it and a little bit of nerves and anxiety about it. And for some reason in recent years, even though I'm older and I'm in no more of a cushy situation financially than I was, I'm not as stressed or anxious about it. This video is my curiosity about it and wanting to fix it, solve it, crack it open. I really want to explore this and figure out how I can do it, how I can open myself up to what is truly possible. And I wonder how many Gen X women carry this. Is there part of my experience that was somewhat generational? I'm not saying exclusive to us, but I'm wondering if there were common factors that make it very prevalent in us. I mean, we watched our parents stretch every dollar. We watched them go through layoffs and recessions and divorce and rising costs. We learned at a really young age to be responsible. We learned not to ask for too much. We learned gratitude. We learned to be grateful for what we had, but we also learned did we learn to not expect too much? Did we learn limitation? I don't know. I would love to hear from you about this. I don't have answers on this. Most of my videos, I have been posting on topics that I feel like I've worked through really well, whether it comes to pretirement, whether it comes to friendships, all the things, a lot of the things I talk about here, I feel like it's stuff that I've worked. This is one that I am currently navigating right now in real time in this exact moment. So I'm not making this video because I've mastered abundance. I'm making it because I'm trying to learn. I'm trying to learn abundance. I want to become someone who can receive more without guilt and without immediately giving it away and without unconsciously returning to just enough. And speaking of guilt, here's another factor. Tell me if this has applied to you. I internalized messages as a girl growing up that money is bad. Money, and if you have a lot of money, if you're rich, if you're wealthy, there's something bad about you. My father just inherently did not trust wealthy people. And when we had some in our day-to-day life, he wouldn't like directly say something about it, but he would infer this level of distrust and dislike. And I also wonder, and again, I am not blaming my parents for this at all. I'm only approaching the curiosity and trying to peel it apart to figure it out for myself. My parents did an amazing job creating a life for all of us. I'm just trying to get to the source of where is this all coming from. So I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear your experience. And I have some questions for you. Did you grow up with scarcity, or did you have an abundant mindset as a child? Has your income increased, but your financial situation has pretty much stayed the same? Is that a reality for you? Do you think abundance is practical, or is it just a mindset, or is it like a woo-woo concept? Do you not believe there's such a thing either? And have you ever caught yourself recreating the same financial patterns over and over and over? I genuinely want to learn from you and from this community, because I really want to dissect this, figure this out. If there is some sort of emotional, mental, spiritual block that's keeping me from receiving and achieving the abundance and the cushion that I ultimately desire, I want to figure that out. I was talking about this topic with a friend of mine, and after she was listening to me sharing like my story and my thought about it, she shared that something stuck out to her with how I was talking about this. She said that it strikes her that what my parents were modeling was security through hard work, and I'm modeling freedom through flexibility. And even though those are different values and very different priorities, my parents' priority was security. My priority was freedom. I guess I'm trying to figure out whether I've been living according to my values, freedom and flexibility and experiences, or according to my limitations. My parents delayed gratification. They built security. They had just enough throughout their lives, but they were saving for later. They retired at a normal traditional age, and today they have more than enough. I built a beautiful life too, but I built it differently. I spent money on experiences. I didn't accumulate things. I chose flexibility ultimately over climbing up another rung of the ladder. And I chose freedom over safety and security and certainty. I don't regret the choices per se, but I'm asking myself, have I mistaken freedom and abundance as if I could only have one or the other? Have I unconsciously believed that if I wanted to live a life full of travel and flexibility, then just enough was the price that I was going to have to pay for that? I don't know. I don't know the answers. So I'm hoping that you can be a little objective, or maybe subjective according to your experience, because I'm asking, what if I don't have to choose between a meaningful, flexible life and financial abundance? What if the next chapter is about how to build both, which is kind of where I feel like I am. So let me know. My name is Amy Palmer. I am your Gen X big sister signing out.